Hi guys, my name is Yvonne Princess Shabango. If you are new here, you're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. We are back with another episode of Employment Wednesdays. And I think I've noticed something. So I posted something about three important things that every employee should know, and I noticed that people actually have questions and people have interests. So I've dedicated the next three episodes to educating you about the most three important things that you should know as an employee, or you should have as an employee. Number one, you should have your employment contract, right? Because it helps you know what services you're doing, what type of job you're doing, your salary. It has the terms and conditions of your employment, right? Technically, it's an agreement between you and your employer. And then secondly, you must know your benefits, guys. It's very important that you know what benefits you have, whether you're contributing to AF, whether you've got certain insurances, and etc., right? And then thirdly, guys, it's important that you have a payslip. It's important that you assess your payslip as much as possible, just to see what is being deducted, what is not being deducted. Because you know what, just like everybody else, HR people are humans, they can make mistakes. So it's your duty to also actually review and check those mistakes and have them rectified, because you don't want to realize that you've been incorrectly debited for like 10 years. So today we're going to start off the first part of the 3 weeks, right? So we're going to start with what is an employment contract. Starting point, I need you to know that I'm going to be referring to my phone, right? But I need you to know that there are different types of to my notes, sorry. There are different types of employment of contract. Firstly, you've got a permanent employment of contract, right? So this is when you're permanently employed, right? And then secondly, you've got a temporary employment contract. This is temp, maybe for a period of it's temporary, it's not permanent. Anytime, it can just come to an end. And then you've got a fixed term. Fixed term and temporary are very similar. So fixed term, they can tell you that this contract is for a period of 2 years and it's renewable, which is some of the things that I'm going to discuss in the video, right? And then they can tell you it's 2 years, it's 3 weeks, it's 4 weeks, but yeah, becomes a fixed term. There's a particular period where it needs to end. It's not like permanent where it's like continuous. And then you've got independent contractors. These are people, they're not even referred to as employees, like your Uber drivers are independent contractors, most writers are independent contractors, and a lot of IT people are independent contractors. So it's basically, you say, you do this service for me, and then after you do the service for me, I'm going to call you again when I need you, or because we have this project, you're going to help us for this period, and then life goes on, So the main agenda today is what is an employment contract in a general sense, right, guys? This is general knowledge. If you want to know more about your employment contract, it is important that you have it reviewed by a labor law lawyer or an employment law lawyer. They'll be able to assist you with their expertise knowledge. So I'm speaking from the 2 cents that I know, right? So your employment contract is basically a document that regulates, in simple terms, it's a document that regulates your relationship with your employer. In this document, you would have the important things like what services are you providing? For how long are you going to provide these services? How much are you going to pay? How much are you going to be paid for these services? How many hours do you need to work each day? How many hours are you being paid per day? Leave days, restraint, so it basically regulates the relationship you have with your employer, which is why it's important that you have that document so that you know what's happening, what type of relationship do you have. Because sometimes we think we are permanently employed, only to find out that you're temporarily employed, only to find out that you're on a fixed term, or only to find out that you are not an employee, you're an independent contractor. And I would explain the differences in a later video sometime, the difference between employee and independent contractor, right? So it's important that you have that employment contract, and it's important that you review it, guys. And here are some of the things, right? In law, we call it boilerplates. Like, these are important things that are supposed to be in an employment contract. And also, the one thing that I love about South African law, it's legislation, guys. We have legislation to guide us. Even as a layman, it can be hard to interpret it sometimes, but I love that labor law legislations are very layman friendly. You've got what we call the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. This is what tells you what is the basic that you need to have as an employee, like the non-compromise, So it will tell you how many leave days you are entitled to. It will tell you how long are you supposed to work. It will tell you that you're entitled to payment for overtime. It will tell you that you are entitled to have an employment contract. It will just regulate the basics, working hours. How many working hours are you supposed to have, right? So here are some of the things I need you guys to go to if you're going to decide to review your employment contract today. If you've never had a look, you just signed, you didn't read it, please, I'm tasking you to go and request for a copy if you don't have a copy, or to go and grab that copy from wherever it is and read it and understand what it says. And actually also, it helps you know what is required of you. Your employment contract usually tells you what services are you providing. It tells you you're a candidate attorney, you're expected to assist every senior legal person. It tells you that you are maybe a cleaner, you're expected to be at work at 7 o'clock, you're expected to clean the kitchens and the offices. Like, it just tells you what you need to do. It equips you with what you're supposed to do, and it helps you know your role better, and it helps you know what's going on, And then so I want you to go and look at this. Look at your commencement date, right? It's important that you check your commencement date, because sometimes we think we've started working, but only to find out that your commencement date says you are starting next year, January, which means for this whole year, you may not be able to claim for any benefits. You're not registered as an employee, and etc. Which is why they end up, like, I know in government institutions, they actually do identity audit, whereby auditors randomly rock up to actually see that you have those people that you say you have as employees, and if they're actually really there, so it's important that you know your commencement date, right? When you started, right? And then it's also very important that you know your termination. There's, like most agreements, even agreements in general, always check your termination clause, guys. Please, it's very important that you check that termination clause. Whether it's an employment agreement, whether it's an artist agreement, whether it's a supplier agreement, service level agreement, just check the termination clause. So what the termination clause will do for you, it will tell you how the agreement terminates. It will tell you how you can exit the agreement. Sometimes it will tell you that in order for the agreement to terminate, some agreements are friendly in that they say either party can terminate without notice. Some will say only the employer will be able to terminate the agreement. Okay, in employment it doesn't work like that, but service level agreements, they'll tell you that only the person you're providing services to can terminate the agreement, right? And then with employment, usually what they do is tells you that you can terminate, or I can terminate, but also tells you the notice period. It will tell you that you can terminate, but you have to serve a 2 months notice period, 30 days notice period, 40 days notice period, 2 weeks, 2 weeks notice period, right? And then also some people are friendly enough to actually say this is negotiable. So if they say before you actually terminate this agreement, you have to serve 2 months notice, they can allow you to leave with immediate effect, or they can allow you to leave with 14 days. But it's important that you look at your agreement, because if your agreement says 2 months, you can't say, oh no, now I'm entitled to leave anytime I want, because that would constitute a breach of agreement. And if you breach an agreement, there are consequences, which is why you must also check what happens if you breach the agreement. Or some people call it a default of agreement. What happens there? Are they going to take you to court? Are you eligible for any fines and etc., right? So, and then secondly, guys, it's important that you look at your severance pay. Like, I've been having quite an interesting time with the conversation surrounding, because okay, I'm a legal counsel, right, in the labor law department. So I've been having such an interesting time relating to severance pay. People have this notion or this belief that every single person is entitled to severance pay. Because it doesn't work like that. Not every person is entitled. So usually your employment agreement should tell you that, hey, you are entitled to severance pay. Should we retrench you, we're going to give you 1 week's pay for every single month for the number of years that you've worked in the company. So let's say you've worked for like maybe 5 years, then they'll look at like every month they give you 1 week. And some people, like, it differs with company to company, but it's usually 1 week. And I've noticed that people usually think that this is an entitlement. You find that people call and they want to take their employer to court, and they angry and all of that. And then I'm like, ma'am, you have no claim, because your employment contract does not make provision for that. And this is not an absolute right, So check your severance pay. Go and do that. Like I said, these are things that you need to check. As soon as you get done watching this video, go and check these things, right? And then look at your salary. How much do you get paid? And guys, here's another thing about salary. Salary. Do not be too quick to be excited about your pay annum. Once they tell you that your pay annum is 300,000 rand, make sure that you are in contact with HR to say, okay, in this 300,000 rand, how much do I get paid monthly? Maybe they tell you that you get paid 29 monthly. What deductions are applicable to this 29,000 rand? Is it after tax? Is it before tax? And what insurances am I paying? And am I contributing to medical aid? You know, it's important that you check out those things, you know, which is some of the things that we're going to discuss in another upcoming episodes, looking at type of benefits that you should look at when you're looking at your agreement or when you're trying to negotiate an employment agreement, right? And then it's important that you look at services being rendered, guys, right? And I know that these days, because of the times we're living in, it's almost hard to stick to a defined role, right? Because you end up, like, I don't know if companies are understaffed, but I've realized that most companies, you end up doing more than what you're hired for. So you may find that you're hired as a receptionist, but you end up finding yourself helping with admin or helping with secretarial work if you can do it, you know. So it's important that you check the services that you are rendering. So if you're a candidate attorney, you would know that, okay, any legal work or any assistance required by directors, you'll be able to participate in, right? So it's important you check services rendered. And then another one, probation period, guys. Probation period. Check out your probation period. Some companies will tell you you're on probation for 3 months. I know I'm on probation for 11 weeks. Other companies will tell you you're on probation for 5 months. Other companies will tell you for 6 months. And some companies will tell you that, okay, in this probation period, we'll pay you 20,000 rand, but once you pass your probation, we will pay you 25,000 rand. It's important that also you ask questions about your probation. So what happens during probation? Am I expected to do this, or is it just training, or am I expected to do this or that? But be a person that's curious. Ask enough questions, you know, so that you know better. It's important that you know your employer and you know the type of relationship that you have with them and the type of relationship that you're going into. And then, yes, and your working hours, guys. Most companies, and we have a problem in South Africa, especially in the corporate spaces, right? We have this thing that's called, it's covered in the terms putting in the hours, but half the time people are overworked and they're not paid for it. So you have to look at your employment agreement. I'm not saying be arrogant and aggressive using this. You don't want to do work and then you're just like, no, I'm entitled to work 7 hours. Anything beyond that, I want my overtime. But it's important that you have a discussion surrounding your working hours. So if your employment of contract says you're going to work 7 hours or 8 hours, ask your employer that, okay, are these 8 hours definite? Or the nature of my job requires me to work 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours. Because yes, like in the corporate space, many of the times you're told that you work 8 hours in a day or 7 hours or 6 hours in a day, but you find that the nature of the job requires you to work more. I know lawyers work more than most people. We rarely work 8 hours. You find yourself working for 10 hours, 12 hours, and yeah, right? It's important that you ask that when you see your working hours. Don't just be like, oh, I'm happy I knock off from 9 to 5 and then life goes on. You know, it's important that you know your working hours and you know the conditions surrounding your working hours. And then who are the parties? Simple as I was supposed to. Okay, I actually discussed this. It's you and your employer. Those are the two parties, unless if you are it's just you. I don't want to complicate this for you, but your employment contract, it's you and your employer. And yes, it should be signed and then it must be dated when you sign it, so that if any issues arise, you are able to resolve them. You are able to say, okay, I've been working for the company for 5 years. I'm entitled to bonuses, promotions. Yes, guys, here's another thing. It's very important that you check your bonuses. Are you entitled to a yearly bonus? Are you entitled to a 13 check? Are you entitled to any incentives? But it's important that you check out those things, and I think I'll discuss more of those things as time goes on, and depending on the questions that you guys have in this video, then I'll curate more videos trying to educate you guys in terms of the terms or the clauses in the employment contract, right? So yeah, that's it from me today. So yeah, it's important that you check this out. You check your commencement date, you check your termination clause, you check your notice period, you check your working hours, you check your salary, you check your probation period, and then you check your severance pay as well. Yeah, I said salary, and then your severance pay and bonuses, and then you will thank me later, guys. If you have more labor related questions, you're welcome to leave them down here. But if they require too much time, unfortunately you may have to consult a labor law lawyer. And I hope you guys have a beautiful and a blessed day, and I hope you guys are still praying for one another, and you're still putting your CVs out there, and you're still putting in the work on yourself. And I hope that you get the job that you require and the job that suits your needs. God bless you. Mwah. Happy Employment Wednesday.